Hey everyone, so it's Hearth and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the differences between Tarot and Oracle and which ones you should be using for your magical and divination practice. So probably one of the most asked questions that I get is, what is the difference between Tarot and Oracle? How can you tell the difference between the two, and which is better for a well-rounded divination practice? So today I'm going to be breaking down the differences between them and how you can tell the difference. So let's start with Tarot. Now Tarot is probably one of the most well-known forms of divination in the entire world. I'm almost certain that most people that you would ask about Tarot would at least know sort of what it was. They would think it was the divination cards or the reading cards that they might see at fairs or in movies or TV shows. Not everyone is going to know what they actually are for, but a lot of people will have at least heard of them. So this deck here is actually one of the most famous decks in the world. This is the Rider-Waite deck. Now this is one of the reasons why Tarot and Oracle are so different. Tarot cards are almost always based on the Rider-Waite deck. There's a pre-made system that all tarot cards follow if they're based on this deck. Now, tarot cards have a set number of cards. There are always 78 cards within a tarot deck. These are split between the major arcana and the minor arcana. Within tarot, there are two different kinds of cards. The major arcana, which are 22 archetype-based cards. These are the Fool, the Magician, the High Priestess, the Empress, the Emperor, the Hierophant, the Lovers, the Chariot, Strength, the Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, the Hanged Man, Death, Temperance, the Devil, the Tower, the Star, the Moon, the Sun, Judgment, and the World. The major arcana cards are the archetype cards. These represent specific people or altering situations that are going to be happening in your life or the life of someone else. Some examples of this are the Fool. This might be an individual that maybe doesn't think before they speak or think before they act. The Lover's card may represent romantic relationships. The Chariot represents a decision that needs to be made. Justice is about the truth coming forwards. Death is going to be representing an altering of a situation in your life. The Tower represents an imminent change, usually for the negative. The Sun represents positivity and uplifting. Each of these major arcana cards represents something really significant and important. And in every single tarot deck that's based on this system, you'll find the same 22 major arcana cards in every single deck. Now, the imagery might change from deck to deck, but the meaning of the cards and the significance behind them still remains the same regardless of which tarot deck you choose. Now, the imagery of these cards really entirely depends on the artist that's doing the work. So here we have 3 cards from 3 different decks. And as you can see, the imagery is really significantly different, but each is still the World card. Now, the other cards within a tarot deck are the minor arcana. There are 56 minor arcana cards covering 4 suits: the Swords, the Pentacles, the Wands, and the Cups. Similar to standard playing cards, each suit of the minor arcana has a series of cards which range from Ace through to 10. Each of these cards has its own unique meaning, along with the meaning of the suit that it is a part of, in this case, the Pentacles. Each suit is then finished off with a Page, Knight, Queen, and finally King card. Within some decks, you might find that these final 4 cards in each suit go by different names. So in this deck, which is the Wild Unknown, rather than it being Page, Knight, Queen, and King, instead it is Daughter, Son, Mother, Father. In others, it is Princess, Prince, Queen, and King. These name changes don't change the meaning of the card, they only change the way it looks within a deck. So it's merely aesthetic, and the meaning always stays the same. As with the major arcana cards, the minor arcana cards are also the same across all tarot decks. They may look different, as is seen with the Ace of Pentacles, but each card is still the Ace of Pentacles with the same meanings. So within all tarot decks that are based on the main Rider-Waite-Smith system, you will find 78 cards, which are made up of 22 major arcana and 56 minor arcana, which contain 4 suits. The imagery really entirely depends on the artist and the creator of the deck, but the baseline meaning of all tarot decks that are based on the Rider-Waite-Smith system are the same. So essentially, you can move from one tarot deck to another and you won't have to relearn the system because the system remains the same no matter which deck of cards you're looking at. It's only the imagery that changes. And that's why it's really significant, especially when you're choosing a deck of cards, that you pick cards where you're really drawn to the imagery. Now, I do really enjoy the Rider-Waite deck as a beginner, mainly because most books on tarot card reading are done with the imagery of the original Rider-Waite deck. But if you are more advanced and you're looking for an alternative deck for you to use, I would definitely look for some that has imagery that really draws you in, that captivates you. Because part of the reading of tarot isn't just going off the book definition of the card, it's looking at the imagery and seeing which aspects of it come forward for that particular reading. Now, Oracle, on the other hand, is significantly different. Oracle decks do not have a predetermined number of cards. There's also no predetermined arrangement. So you can have any number of cards from 1 or 2 all the way up to a couple of hundred. It entirely depends on the person who's created the deck. Now, Oracle cards also don't have any system in place. So every deck of Oracle cards will have entirely different cards. So whereas within tarot, you will find the Sun card, the Devil, the Tower, the Ace of Pentacles, the Five of Cups, in every single deck. It will always be the same. In Oracle, it's quite unusual to ever find 2 decks with the same card in it. And if there is a similar card in it, the meanings will likely be different depending on the intention of the person that's created the deck. Now, alongside this, Oracle cards also follow a general theme. So while with tarot, you might find decks that have the imagery of nature, such as the Wild Unknown, or you'll find decks that have the imagery of fairies or plants or people, the meanings of the cards remain the same regardless. It's only the imagery that changes. Within Oracle, you may find that all of the cards are named after whatever the card set is based on. So you have things like a Camelot Oracle deck, where every single card is based on a person from the Camelot legend of King Arthur. You may also find Oracle decks based on Sabbats and seasons such as Halloween or Christmas. You can also find Oracle decks based on fairies or mermaids, or demons, dragons, pixies, angels. You can find them on almost everything. But the one thing you'll find within Oracle cards is that every single deck is going to be different. With Oracle, a lot of the time you will have the description of the card on the card itself. You won't have to memorize it, it will be right in front of you as you're doing a reading, which makes Oracle cards a lot quicker and easier to read than tarot. However, the bonus with it being a pre-made system with tarot is that you can bounce from deck to deck to deck, and once you know the system and you know how to read the cards, you can pick up any tarot deck and you will know how to read it instantly. Whereas because every Oracle deck is different, you're essentially going to have to learn each deck as though it's a new deck. You're not going to be able to take any of that information from one deck to another. One card might have an angel in it and the next card might have an angel in it, but those 2 cards may have completely different meanings depending on the intention of the person that created the deck. The other advantage of tarot over oracle is that tarot gives you very varied responses. Because of the quantity of cards and the type of cards that are in the deck, there are both positive and negative cards. So you're able to read an entire spectrum of intentions depending on what question was asked. If you're doing a reading for someone, or if you're doing a reading for yourself where you're asking the deck a question, if it's a negative response, the deck is going to be able to tell you that. If it's a positive response, it's going to be able to tell you that too. A lot of oracle decks are designed to be affirmation cards, where you maybe draw one a day and it gives you a positive, uplifting statement for the day ahead. A lot of oracle cards don't give you positive and negative cards. They'll mainly focus on the positive, which is great if you're doing daily affirmation cards. But if you really want to get an answer out of your deck for something significant and meaningful that might not be positive, oracle decks can sometimes be a little bit wishy-washy, mainly because the number of cards is often less than 78. Usually they're between 35 and 60-ish, depending on the deck. And so a lot of those cards end up being positive more than negative. I have maybe a handful of cards out of a whole collection of decks that give you anything other than positive. So it does really sway the outcome of a reading if almost every card in your deck is going to give you a positive, uplifting outcome, even if the answer to your question isn't necessarily positive. So those are really the main differences between the two styles of deck. Tarot is a pre-made system, 78 cards split into the major arcana of 22 cards and the minor arcana of 56 cards. Every deck that's based on the Rider-Waite-Smith system will have the same cards, just with different illustrations, but the same underlying meaning. They have both positive and negative cards, so you're able to get a good spread of answers. With Oracle, it's entirely based on the discretion of the person that's created them. They are very decorative in their imagery, they're very evocative, so they're wonderful if you're a super visual person and you really enjoy using cards within your magical practice, within your altars, within your affirmations. They are good for reading with as well, but because there isn't a pre-made system, every deck of cards is going to be different. There can be any range of number of cards within that deck. Sometimes they're split into suits, most of the time they aren't. Largely they are positive affirmation style cards, but you can definitely find oracle decks that give you positive and negative. But the easiest way to tell the difference between the two is the card number. Most oracle cards are not going to have 78 cards. If you read the back of a deck of cards and it says it has 53 cards, you know straight away it is not a tarot deck. It's an oracle deck. So if in doubt, check whether it has suits and check the number of cards. And if a deck of cards doesn't have that, then it's likely going to be an oracle deck more than a tarot deck. Now, which is going to be best for your divination practice? That entirely depends on what you need out of divination. For me personally, I hands down will go for tarot if I need real answers. If I have a really significant question that I want to know a truthful answer to, I will go straight for my tarot deck because there are positive and negative cards, and there's also enough variety in cards that gives me a really good understanding of the outcome of that question. If you want more daily affirmation cards, or if you want single draw cards where you just want 1 or 2 cards a day, or you want to add on to pre-existing readings, so a lot of people will do a tarot reading and then they'll draw an extra oracle card as a little bit of additional insight, then oracle can be really good. It can give you a general view of a situation, but it's definitely not going to be as detailed as a tarot reading. Often this is mainly because there aren't enough cards with enough variety in order to give you that significant reading. However, if you do want to work with oracle cards or cards on altars, on manifestation spaces, in spell work, in ritual, in meditation, then oracle cards can be really, really useful because they do offer you that very significant imagery and the positive, uplifting affirmations that can be used for prosperity and protection and love and peace. And these kind of things can be really useful for magical practice with cards, not just divination. So I hope that this video kind of gave you an overview of the differences between the two and which might be best for you to purchase or own for your own magical practice. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to give it a like. It really, really means so much to me. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, video ideas, or just want to chit chat with the community down in the comment section, feel free to post a comment. And if you do enjoy the magical content on this channel or in this video, feel free to hit subscribe. I do try my best to post magical content every single week. So I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope you have a marvelous magical day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!